Welcome to the third episode of Hype with Nick and Sam. We are pumped to be here. We are ready to talk about some Patrick Wilson movies and why he is the most famous, not famous actor of all time.
That's perfect. That's a great way of describing him because, like, telling people that we are going to do Patrick Wilson this week, I got a lot of people who were like, I'm not quite sure who that is. I'm like, you know what? Perfect.
He's your generic. He's your like white guy that just like that he can fill the role. He's like one of your Chris's almost, like your Chris Evans lines and everything.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
So real quick shout out, not shout out to 9/11, but it's 9/11. Never forget. I feel like every time we do like one of these episodes, something like tragic.
Something happened. Yeah. Like, what the hell? Like, maybe we should record on different days. I don't know what's going on, man.
Right. Like, gee.
Our shit's cursed.
Like,
listeners out there,
we got to do it like earlier in the day so nothing bad can happen. Yeah. I guess 9/11 already happened. Right.
Just like everyone out there, don't go walk under any like ladders or like, if you see black cats or whatever, just avoid it because apparently we're just bad luck.
Okay, so we're talking about Patrick Wilson. We're going to get into some real big horror stuff today. I do want to start off really quick and just talk about Watchmen because I am a huge fan of that comic book, the graphic novel Watchmen, and he plays Night Owl in the movie and totally slays the role of like being like, he looks like such a, and this is a theme throughout his movies, he looks like such an average dude that just
exactly.
Yeah. It's very cool that he like that's like the whole thing about with Watchmen is like he's like a little like he's retired, he's a little overweight, out of breath when he fights and everything, but he still like kicks total ass. So I know you haven't seen
what year was Watchmen? Because I
believe I want to say like 2009. 2009. You just wow.
Yeah, so it's been a big. I was gonna say like I really got into him with like the Insidious when Insidious came out. That's when I kind of went full Patrick Wilson. I was like, this guy's awesome.
I almost forgot before we like really get into it. I wanted to tell you just like how weird my day started today. Literally, I went to the grocery store this morning and beforehand I decided to stop by the ATM and I crossed this little bridge over a river to get to the ATM. And I'm, getting my money out and everything. And then I just hear this loud splash. It literally sounds like someone has jumped into the river. And I'm like, what? Like, what? This is not a river you swim in, really. People don't do that. It's like a river walk in a downtown area. And I look over and there's this like homeless guy kind of like aggressively walking at me with a guitar in his hands. And I was like, okay, like what? And then there's other guys like behind him just going, yo, what the fuck are you doing, man? Come back here and shit. And I'm like, hey, what just happened? He's like, he just took one of those bird scooters and threw it into the river for no reason. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, this guy, he's always sitting back here, like just swearing at customers and stuff. And he just went over there and picked up a bird scooter and threw it into the river. And I was just, it was 7:15 a.m. I was like, man, that guy's, he's having a rough day already. He's
doing it. All right, dude. Yeah. And probably gonna have no financial repercussions of that whatsoever. And that's America, baby.
Yeah, I mean he's homeless. He's probably nameless. He's got a guitar on his back. He probably
nameless.
He probably has a name.
Probably not. He lost it when he became homeless.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
That you can like Men in Black it. If you just get rid of your feet, just like sear them off, then you're just like, no longer.
Right, exactly.
You no longer have a name. You're just Agent K.
Right. But as much as we love homeless people, yeah, dude. Well, that's one way to start your Friday off. And hey,
right.
Now
we're it's not related to Patrick Wilson, although he I think does have some experience with homeless people, either helping them or attacking them. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, or getting maybe he's seen some homeless guy throw scooters into rivers. We don't know.
We'll use that segue to get back into it. I just had to tell that story because
that is bizarre. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's all I could say.
Do you want to set up Insidious or?
Yeah. So I mean, I still remember seeing the trailers for Insidious back in the day, and and that was kind of that was when I can't again the year we should really have these years down. But
I know that the second one came out in 2013 because I was a senior in high school.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say I think the first one came out I want to say 2011 sounds right because I want to say because I remember being able to see it in theater or no, it was rated PG-13. No, I'm confusing it with Paranormal Activity. That's what I'm confusing it with. That was one where I had to sneak in when I was underage. Insidious, I remember solely because
admitting on audio to sneaking in underage to movies when he was younger. Someone contact the
Don't do it, guys. Yeah, seriously. I've been on the run for the past 10 years now, and I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. Trust me, guys, it's not a life you want.
Plot twist. Hermes was the homeless person I saw throw a school.
I'm throwing him all over the city, baby.
He's done. He's fuck corporate America.
I'm out. But yeah, I mean, I remember going into seeing it in the theater, sitting in the back row because that was cool.
It was cool,
and it was, even though it's one of the worst seats in the house, but whatever. Loved it. And I remember just the opening scene of that movie. We were even when it just flashes Insidious on the screen with these blaring string. I don't even know what to call it, but we were talking about putting that in the beginning of this podcast, and then you were like, I think it might be a little harsh on the listeners' ears.
I'm just imagining someone driving calmly, trying to get their podcast on.
Yeah,
all of a sudden,
if you've seen the movie, you know exactly the noise that I'm referring to. And it's probably one of the biggest jump scares in the movie, and it's just the title screen.
It's the title. That's all it is.
But just seeing, like you said, Patrick Wilson kind of just plays a dad in that movie. For the better part of the movie, he's a dad.
There's you can tell there's something off about him, the whole movie.
Exactly.
Especially how connected Insidious 1 and 2 are. I actually have something to admit. I saw Insidious 2 before I saw Insidious 1, so it made no sense to me whatsoever what was going on.
Oh man, because it literally picks up where 1 leaves off.
They're super interconnected. 2 is basically happening at the same time as 1 at some points.
Right, because it has those. We'll talk a bit because it literally again from the first one, it explains kind of how they go back into the. Well, okay, if you haven't seen Insidious, let's kind of. I'm just gonna a brief summary of the movie. It's pretty much Patrick Wilson. His wife, played by her name is
Rose Byrne.
Thank you, Rose Byrne. I knew it was Rose something.
Yeah, I got
you. Yep, and they have I think 2 sons, and all of a sudden one of their sons goes into a coma and isn't waking up, and they determine that he's not in a coma. He is actually what do they call it? They call it the further.
He's a traveler. He's can
walk. Astro.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
astro projecting.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yes, astro projector, and he's a very talented one apparently, and he can basically leave his body when he sleeps and go off into this other dimension that they call the further, and he's pretty much trapped there. And it's kind of like a sort of a barrier between where demons can get into this other dimension, and it kind of creates a window, for them to get through. And that's kind of the basis of the story, is they're trying to get their son out of this other dimension.
Because there's probably 18 demons trying to get into their son.
Right, exactly. They all crave life apparently. So when they can sense someone who's living among them in the further, they all go for that one person and try and basically possess him in the real world is essentially.
By the way, what a cool concept for a paranormal movie. It's just
right.
I like it because it's different. The Conjuring and you were talking about Paranormal Activity are basically on the same playing field when it comes to haunted house, haunted person, whatever.
Right.
That's going on. There's an exorcism to get rid of it, or there's not, and people die. But Insidious takes it adds like almost fantastical elements to it.
Right, but
there's an actual mythology.
It stays scary though, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like it really it does take on a fantastical element, like you say, but it's still, they keep it in the supernatural horror realm like so well. And like, yeah, I never felt like I was watching anything but a horror movie. But you're totally right. I mean, when you
did you know that Insidious was written by the same guy that wrote Saw, that also stars in Saw?
Oh, I forget about that. That's right. And then
he plays
directed by James Wan. Yeah.
Yeah, well, him and James Wan, Leigh Whannell is his name. He wrote the first Saw movie, the best one, and he acted in it.
He's in it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that's not the doctor that's chained up.
Right. Yes.
And so I think it's cool that him and James Wan are like close friends. They actually he wrote and he directed the third one, which actually makes me want to watch the third one now because I haven't seen that one. I've only seen the first two. But the third story,
one's not, I know I've seen them all. I think the third one definitely gets. Patrick Wilson is no longer in 3, or I think there's a fourth one, like The Last Key or something. I haven't seen that one, I don't think, right. But third one wasn't bad. But yeah, I mean,
now that I know that two got such bad reviews, but I still loved it.
Right?
You give the other one
crazy,
dude. That's insane. Like, I don't get it.
I don't get that at all. I mean, Insidious 2 is like it's so cool because like in Insidious 1, so pretty much, I mean, not spoiling shit. Patrick Wilson.
These movies have been out for upwards of 7 years.
Yeah, guys, we're gonna be if a movie's came out 10 years ago, it's not spoilers. You should have seen it by now. Sorry, but seriously. So Patrick Wilson, the reason that they explain the reason that he's been kind of acting sort of weird the whole time is because he doesn't remember it because they were able to suppress it when he was a child, but he also can astral project like his son can.
Right.
And he had some issues with that when he was a kid. So they basically send him into the further to go try and find his son. And during the first movie, there's a couple of scenes where like, the couple's laying in bed and all of a sudden their like front door goes, like their like door alarm goes off and like they come downstairs and their front door is wide open and stuff. And, there's pounding on like the door and stuff, but no one's there. And you think, okay, it's just creepy shit, whatever.
Which, but man, then you watch it. I think Patrick Wilson I like because he like, I can like see myself like in him, like as like, like I can be like, oh my God, like when I'm a dad, like one day, if I was Patrick Wilson in this situation, I would be losing my mind right now. I would not be
right. Like we were literally talking about like, I mean, I panicked when we were at the harbor like a couple weeks ago, and we sat down at the Hava, Belmont Hava, and we sat down, had a picnic or whatever, and I apparently left my keys there. And like, I knew exactly where they were, but we, eventually moved, probably, I don't know, a quarter mile down and just started walking. And I realized that I didn't have my keys on me. And I went I was with my brother and two like girls, I was trying to be cool all night, and at that point there's just a switch goes on. I went into panic mode and I just sped walk to where my keys were, found them. But I mean, those were my keys. Imagine my kid gets taken. Like, Jesus Christ. Like,
that reminds me
in panic mode.
My freshman year in college, we were like, we'd been drinking and stuff, and we just ate lunch in
college.
And yeah, we were in college at one point in time. And I had my sunglasses on my face, but they were like, they're polarized because I don't buy that cheap shit. But
right.
They were so polarized.
So polarized.
I couldn't tell that they were on my face, and I was fucked up, so I couldn't feel them either. And so I didn't say anything to anyone. I just said shit, and then just turned around and started sprinting back to the mess hall. And then probably ran 50 yards, and then like touched my belt and like hitting my nose while I was running, and then was like, I'm
an idiot.
Probably during May term at Hanover College, which if you know, then you know. That's all I gotta say on that.
We'll leave it at that, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, So I got really. It wasn't like after seeing the Insidious movies, and then he eventually starred in some more incredible horror movies, The Conjuring. I still wasn't like Patrick Wilson like by name, like, oh, he's the shit. But it just kind of will look. There's another movie he did called Bone Tomahawk that we're gonna get into a little bit later because we got a lot to say about that movie. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's funny that we're doing a podcast on him now and that we're all hyped up on him because like I said, back when these movies were like my obsession, I really couldn't care less about him as an actor.
There's something about the horror movie genre where the actors, you get obviously your Jamie Lee Curtis's and you get your
he's been deemed like a he's been deemed like a screen king.
It's not it's not like he does anything so badass in these movies that he would stand out in any way. He just performs perfectly for the part that he's playing, which I dig.
Right. Like and like in Insidious 2, he's like, again, spoilers, he's, pretty much possessed by, this woman in black who, you find out, kind of tried to get into his body when he was a kid and, through his, like the astral projected and further deal. And they, eventually, and then so he's essentially the bad guy in the beginning of his Insidious 2, and because that he's possessed going into it and he plays it just,
and he's creepy. He's
so well. Like there's the dice scene that I absolutely love. I know you have a story about seeing that in theaters, but
I just had
there's a scene.
This asshole in the theater just kept on yelling Yahtzee every time this guy's like throwing these paranormal dice or whatever. And
because like he's like,
the problem
he's
was
like
it was funny.
Right, but like it's because like basically what was the deal? It was like this. He was like a paranormal investigator guy who was helping the family, and like he communicates via these like dice, and he Patrick Wilson's kind of, he knows that Patrick Wilson's possessed and evil at this point, and he's kind of, he's like, what do you have behind your back? Patrick Wilson's like, why don't you ask your dice what you have, like what I have behind my back, and it's like, it says knife or something. I can't remember, but just an incredibly acted scene where he is just malevolent as shit. But that would ruin it for me.
It was it's like
someone was yelling Yahtzee
every single time, and it's like oh my god, I'm trying to get into this, man. I haven't even at this point seen the first one, so I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Right, and you got these assholes yelling Yahtzee in the background. Like, okay,
The Conjuring 1 and Insidious 2 came out within about 2 weeks of each other because I went to see them in theaters back-to-back weekends in high school as a senior. I remember it was like me and like this group of like, it was like 2 girls and one of my friends, and we just went to those movies like back-to-back weeks. I remember, and I was like, this is again before, because I didn't get into horror until I knew you, and that was my freshman year of college.
Right.
And so I was not, I was, putting on my brave face and everything, but I was not digging it. Wasn't digging it.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're scary. Like the classic jump scare with again, if you know, in the first Insidious when they're talking and the red dude appears behind Patrick Wilson's head when they're just talking out of nowhere, like one of the best jump scares I've ever seen. And like, I still like, I know when it's coming, and I still, it gets me every time. It's one of those scares.
No matter what, it's still gonna rock you. It's just how it is.
Yeah, but I mean, before we do get into Bone Tomahawk, I mean, definitely we should. I just rewatched. I've seen The Conjuring 2 a couple times, but I just rewatched that today, and I gotta tell you, I mean, I've been watching, because in those movies, basically, what's the year on those movies, like setting wise?
Got to be the 80s.
Like it's a while ago, but he basically they portray Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are real life paranormal investigators, but they were known for like their very famous case was the Amityville house, And
Lorraine, played by Vera Farmiga, who we also fucking love. She's awesome.
Love her. I mean, she's the best. Yeah, she's awesome. Like in everything she's. I mean, Bates Motel, freaking.
Oh yeah, I forgot she's in Bates. The only thing she sucks in is Godzilla King of Monsters, but I don't have to get mad about that right now.
No.
You've seen Godzilla King of Monsters, you know that her character makes no sense in that movie. It's
horrible.
We've got a franchise, just barely hanging on, and they bring in this stupid ass character. Dude, I'm angry. I won't get.
She's a great actress. Sorry, yeah, calm down. Chill. Seriously though, no.
I actually that makes me so mad.
Dude, I tried rewatching it the other weekend because it's on HBO now, and I was like, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna watch the dope monster scenes because I mean, don't get me wrong, that movie's got a lot of them. But
that's the thing is that
I'm a sucker for those. But
it's like they put all the money. God, this is totally off topic, but they put all the money into the monster fights, and then just like I feel like they got to the part where they were filming, and they're like, wait, does anybody have a plot of any kind? And they had Vera Farmiga, and they just give her this role that's like she wants to wake up her daughter.
Her daughter is what's her face? Millie.
Oh, 11. Millie Bobby
Brown.
Yeah,
what's her name? Yeah, and she's basically pointless in the movie as well. Like they're just two great actors who just are used like shit. But whatever.
It would have been better if only the monsters and every single roar they just put up some random subtitles. Like it's the same roar every time, but it means like something different. You just like roar, and then Mothra attack, and it's like what? How does that mean that?
Like wait. All right, well that's not Patrick Wilson at all. But
it's not Patrick Wilson.
Holy shit! Wow.
But Vera Farmiga, if you're listening to this, I love you, but your part in Godzilla King of Monsters made me more angry than a lot of movies have in a while.
Yeah, I'm mad at you right now. I'm cool with you now because watching Conjuring 2, and you acted your freaking ass off in that movie. I mean, those movies are awesome. So we got off topic. So basically, yeah, they're again we got off topic, which is a very common theme in these podcasts. But that's the point. It's basically they're demon hunters, and they try and basically prove and disprove paranormal activities in houses. And in real life, they are heavily criticized as being phonies and whatnot, and just because back in that in that time, it's like, what can you really like what proof can you really provide for that kind of stuff,
Well, even me, if they weren't portrayed by attractive people like Vera and Patrick Wilson, I would probably still even be like, I don't believe any of this.
No, dude. Like watching real life interviews. Yeah, like watching real life interviews with like I mean, granted they're both very, very old now, but I'm like, man, you guys seem like the life of the party.
Seriously.
Just boring ass people. But yeah, I mean,
read an interview with Patrick Wilson where he said that he, in order to get to know his part, he was researching Ed Warren.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the guy literally had no sense of humor whatsoever. So the guy just would not really laugh or make jokes at all ever. Which how to make that cinematic? How do you do that?
You pointed that out to me before I rewatched The Conjuring 2 today, and I was like, he really does not. He doesn't smile. He plays that role really well. And again, I like The Conjuring 2 also because and both Conjuring movies are based off of real cases that they did,
which is cool.
But no, it's awesome. And just, I don't know, The Conjuring 2 is cool because it kind of goes into it has a couple of scenes where them portraying the Warrens or doing interviews with people on some random TV show, and they're criticizing Patrick Wilson, basically calling them phonies, etc. And just I don't know, I kind of like seeing that because it really made it feel like the real life story. These are
it makes
real
it more
people,
realistic. In real life, you aren't just buying into that stuff.
Right. People were questioning it. It wasn't.
I don't buy into
really?
I don't buy into any of the supernatural stuff personally. That's why I like slashers more than I like paranormal movies because I'm like, well, that's just this shit can happen. Not that I want it to happen at all, but I'm just like, that's scarier to me because I know that like serial killers can just go on a freaking Halloween killing spree like any day of the week. Whereas
anytime they want it.
Well, I mean, I guess it would have to be on Halloween for that particular instance. So, but
it's loose.
The paranormal, like when portrayed well in movies, is really scary and really, really cool. And I love the concepts of like why the spirits are still there. That you get in the Insidious,
exactly.
And then, like in the Conjuring, it's like a mystery as to like why these souls are so tortured and hanging around. You know,
yeah.
So you get these backstories on different characters that aren't even actually in the movie, which I like. But to me, it's not. The jump scares are there. Psychologically, I do not find them scary.
Exactly. They're not. I mean, they really aren't, but I mean, they're just exactly. The jump scares are done and it's not cheap. I mean, yeah, there's a few, like easy jump scares, but it never feels cheap. You never feels like they're just like, oh, like we need to fit something in here. Like it's perfect. Like I think those are just very good movies. And if you guys haven't seen them, again, Patrick Wilson absolutely kills it in those movies, and he's playing a real life character with like no emotion, and it's awesome. Like, and he's so good still. I mean, not no emotion, just no sense of humor or positive personality. But I mean, it was pretty easy to get into anything Patrick Wilson after that. Once I had really gotten into those movies and started rewatching them, once I started getting into obsessing over actors and different directors and stuff, that's when I really like appreciated him in those movies, instead of just like the movie itself. But another movie that I know you're itching to talk about, and I rewatched it last night because you wanted to do the podcast yesterday because you rewatched Bone Tomahawk, or was it 2 days ago?
I watched this movie I watched it in the morning. First of all, I watched it first thing in the morning. I woke up, my girlfriend was taking a shower, so I was like, you know what? I'll just watch the first 15 minutes. But little did I realize that the first freaking 6 minutes just had me completely hooked. And then my girlfriend was like trying to get ready for work and everything, while these just like one of the most like violent sounds and shit are ringing through our apartment from this movie. And it's like probably 8:30 in the morning, and she's like,
the opening scene is literally someone getting their fucking throat cut, and you like hear the like sawing, like the
sawing and the crunching of their tendons and stuff. It's so messed up.
But like before we get into it, okay, Bone Tomahawk, I'm just gonna probably say it's probably like one of the best movies that very few people have heard of or seen. Like, I mean, it's gotta be.
It is actually one of my favorites. It's one of my.
Do you want to kind of summarize it, sort of?
Sure. So Bone Tomahawk is all about. It's a horror western, which is a very interesting. It's the first it's the first horror western I've ever seen, and probably the only one because it's so good. And so what you get,
someone called it like a western meets Eli Roth, and I'm like, well, that's
a really good description. That's a really good description. Okay. And so what you got is Patrick Wilson starts off broken leg already. A drifter comes into town, played by David Arquette, actually from the Scream franchise. Mm-hmm. He comes into town after desecrating the gravesite of a cannibalistic Native American tribe, but they're called troglodytes. They're called they're like made from incest, kill and rape their moms.
They have no language.
They have no language. They talk with these these things that they implant in their throat. It's insane. Whoa. And so David Arquette, he comes in after desecrating their site. Kurt Russell, dope ass sheriff, shoots him in the leg for really no reason at all. But hey, it's the West,
right?
And so then Patrick Wilson's wife is a nurse, goes there to get the bullet out of the guy's leg, perform surgery. She's there with a deputy. All three of them get kidnapped by this cannibalistic tribe. And then it's just Kurt Russell, Patrick Wilson, Matt Fox from Lost, we'll get into his character. He's so good in this. And Richard Jenkins from Step Brothers, the dad from Step Brothers, who's also just freaking awesome. Awesome.
He's funny as shit. Like, he is the comedic relief that's so needed.
if no one else in the movie is talking, there's not really a moment of silence. Richard Jenkins is talking about some just random shit. And it's
and they
always
and
good.
They keep commenting on it. They're like, do you ever not talk? And he's like, well, I guess if you'd rather, hear the sounds of footsteps and men's breathing, then we can do that. I'm like, yeah, like, and dude, when we first watched Bone Tomahawk, I didn't know that was Richard Jenkins at all.
Nope, me either.
Unrecognizable. Like he is just like this like he looks way older than he actually is, which is sick. I'm pretty sure he's getting up there, but like he looks even older than he actually is. And
like a taste of the kind of like comedy that you get from him is he comes into the jail while Kurt
he's
Russell
the backup. He's the backup deputy.
Yeah, he's the backup deputy because he's like 85 or something in this.
Yeah,
or like whatever age is old for this time period. Because I'm sure. I mean, this is like the 1800s. This is crazy.
Right. Yeah.
But he goes. He comes in and he goes, that tea smells terrible. And Kurt Russell's like, it's
gruesome.
It's soup. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, can I have some? And then he's like, now it actually smells pretty good. And he's like, tastes like corn. And Kurt Russell says, it's corn chowder. And Richard Jenkins says, well, then things are lining up then. Which is just, and like, that's like a 4-minute little back and forth.
In that movie.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I don't want to say Tarantino-y dialogue, but it's like I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it is kind of Tarantino-y, right?
You get these moments of just levity between this. I wrote down my second note is just pain is very evident in this movie. They make you feel it.
Yep.
Throughout the entire movie, so many people die in this movie. It's crazy. You've got to see this movie. It's free on Amazon Prime right now if you haven't seen it. We're not going to completely spoil it in this podcast. And even if we do, you should still watch because you kind of know what's going to happen. But you got to see it unfold because the music, the way that the actors portray these characters, it's a group of 4 dudes that you just like you would want to be going into battle with for sure.
Exactly. I'm like I kind of want to be in this group right now, but actually I don't because I don't want to be in this time period and basically going into a cannibal cave. But
the whole movie, Patrick Wilson, he has a broken leg from the beginning.
The whole movie,
like an off-screen injury that happens because he was trying to do something with his roof. His wife, who gets kidnapped, comments on it, and so he's traveling with this broken leg, and you just like, I'm like, oh my God, during this time period, being injured in any sort of way would be horrible.
Right.
You just
and we're talking about panic mode, but before his wife is kidnapped by fucking cannibals, and they have to go out into this on this fucking journey, this expedition to go to even find the cave to see if she's still alive, and he has a broken leg. Like, I can't even imagine.
At one point he falls, and the sound you just hear this just crunching sound that is just like a human body should not make that sound whatsoever.
Yeah.
He screams out in pain, zooms in on his face. You're right there. Like, I was squirming. This movie makes you squirm a little bit.
You're right. Yeah, the pain thing is actually very and the pain and just noises anytime a body hits the ground or hits someone else, it's a very just guttural thump, and you know what I mean? And you hear everyone's footsteps. I don't know. It's just something about the sound effects and just all the noises.
I wrote down crunching sounds, splitting and tearing, ah.
It's perfect.
So
that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's a very violent movie, but it's got comedy, it's got action, and it's got some pretty messed up stuff.
It's got one of the most harrowing torture/killing scenes I've ever seen in my entire life.
I mean, it's for me. I don't know how many torture things you've seen, but that's number one for me.
I mean, I would compare it to the Hostel movies. If you've seen those, I would put it above the Hostel movies.
Yeah, even more. Oh, fuck. It's again, we can't even talk about it. I feel like just talking about it just is dirty. I don't know. Oh,
well, if you have seen it, I was actually introduced to this scene by someone who hadn't even seen the movie. Stephen Farrow, one of our lacrosse teammates in college, showed me this scene, which we won't get like super detailed in because if you've got to watch this movie.
Yeah.
He showed me this before I was about to eat lunch, and I was just like, "Yo, what
the fuck is this?
Fuck? What is that?" I didn't even actually ask him what the movie was because I was like, "I'm never watching that." And now here
I'm like,
one of my favorite
this
movies.
looks like an exploitive. Yeah, like I don't know, like this looks like but it's absolutely incredible, and you definitely gotta check it out.
Once
it's
once
like
the
again,
troglodytes do that though. Once that scene happens, that's when you're like, oh my god, like you guys have to fuck them up. Like you have to fuck
exactly.
them up. And
like you're like and you're still ready for it too, because you know Kurt Russell, like if he's gonna go down, like you don't know if he does, but you're like if he's going down, he's going down with a fight. He's taking these guys down with him type thing. You know what I mean? Like
he is a boss in this movie. I want
burly as hell.
He looks like the kind of Kurt Russell that the Kurt Russell in The Thing wants to be.
Yes, that's a great description.
Right.
Except just burly. That's the only word I can use to describe him. Just a gray, burly haired, just sheriff, and he's awesome.
Seriously.
Yeah. I mean,
but Patrick Wilson comes in, saves the day pretty much as a cripple and
with a broken leg.
with a broken leg, and you get much more, I would say, range out of him in Bone Tomahawk because he's like he's trying to keep it together like the whole movie. It's very, very evident. He's trying to keep it together. He's angry. He goes off a few times, then immediately like apologizes afterwards. And the direction. It's directed by. Let me see. I've got this in my notes. S. Craig Zahler, who by the way, his filmography. This was his first movie as director and screenwriter.
I was gonna say he has like at least something else that's really good, right?
He's the director and screenwriter of Brawl and Cell Block 99, which is the Vince Vaughn movie. It's supposed to be crazy. Need to see that. And director and screenwriter of Dragged Across Concrete, also with Vince Vaughn and Mel Gibson, which is supposed to be a dark and gritty cop movie, I think. I'm pretty sure it's like supposed to be like it's about corrupt cops, basically.
Yeah. I still gotta see Brawl. Brawl and
Cell Block 99 has I believe it's 91%. So Bone Tomahawk is 90% Rotten Tomatoes. Brawl and Cell Block 99 has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's pretty.
I mean, just definitely check it out because we don't want to spoil stuff for it. I mean, we've given you all the background you need. I mean, and then also, I mean, Matthew Fox kind of plays this like again. He's not in like. He's in Lost, but then like I mean, what have you seen him in since that? Like I haven't.
It's refreshing to see him. It's refreshing to see him.
It is, and he's awesome. He's like kind of like this like gentleman sort of dude who you like know is also like he hates Native Americans or something, and he's killed a lot of them or something. I don't know. He's sort of just like the brains, and like he's this kind of just like sharply dressed dude, and I don't know. He plays it very well. And yeah, I mean, just everyone like has their own specific role in this like kind of group, which I think just makes the movie it pops. Right. Straight up, yeah.
If you're a fan of Kurt Russell, you got to watch it. If you're a fan of Matt Fox in Lost, you got to watch it. If you're a fan of Richard Jenkins in Step Brothers, you got to watch it. This is a movie I cannot express it. All the movies that we've done so far, over The Lighthouse, over any of the Jordan Peele stuff, I'd got to say this is my number one recommendation on the podcast so far.
That's a good one. I mean, and again, it's one that like I feel like a lot of people just haven't even heard about, let alone seen.
But like after I watched it, I was texting you out the ass. I was like literally like,
I know, I'm
like,
bro, I'm working
the podcast tonight because I'm freaking out. This movie's so fucking good. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. All right, guys. So I think we've pretty much covered Patrick Wilson, at least what we know of him. We know he's the bad guy in Aquaman as well. If you wanted to get your P-Wilsys, in through a comic book movie. We are big comic movie guys. For some reason, have not been able to get myself to watch Aquaman. I don't really want to go into why because I have
weird.
No idea.
Me either. I have
don't know.
literally when they announced like back in like 2014, I remember they like had this like list of like all the superhero movies coming out in the next like 5 years. And I remember seeing Aquaman on there and being like, holy shit.
I'm amped on Jason Momoa too. I'm amped on Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
I have no reason. I liked him in Justice League. I have no
It's
reason not to have seen it.
It got fine ratings. I'm pretty sure I've heard mixed things, but like, I mean, like when have ratings stopped us from watching a movie?
Oh, seriously. You know what? I'm going to watch it tonight. I'm going to watch Aquaman tonight. I'm going to watch it on HBO. Pretty sure it's still there. You know, get this out of the way. But next week, we are keeping a little bit of a horror theme going on. I think it's just because, you know, it's been quarantine and stuff. There's not been – and The Babysitter 2 just got released on Netflix, so we're really hype on that. We're talking about Samara Weaving. She's a low-key new – I mean, I'm pretty sure people are trying to get rid of this term, but final girl. And she's in The Babysitter 2. We're going to talk Ready or Not, which is a Canadian-produced film that was in theaters in the U.S. for a few weeks. It's really good. And Mayhem.
Yep.
So if you have seen any of those movies, awesome. If you haven't, definitely watch at least one of them before next week.
Yeah.
You're going to get
the Babysitter movies are both on Netflix and very, I mean, they're both like, I think like hour and a half long movies, and they're just fun.
They're very fun. If you're a fan of comic book style horror comedy with like a shitload of references, it's like,
never like scary, you know, but it's like, it is what it is. When you see it, it's kind of
such a great sentence for anything because it's
you
can never be wrong. You can never be wrong. We're covering Samara Weaving. We have a new Twitter with @with_hype. All right, and so if you guys have any ideas that you want us to do, we've got there's a high possibility at some point down the road a Jake Gyllenhaal episode. Probably going to be pretty expensive because we love that man. He's one of the best actors in the game, I would say. So down the road, so if you guys want to DM us on Twitter or interact with us on Twitter, put us out there. And we'll be putting this episode up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And it's been awesome. I've enjoyed this so much.
I can't believe we only called him P-Wilsys one time, I think, in this whole thing. When via text and like calls, that's all I refer to him as. Just P-Wilsy.
Patty Wilson.
Patty Wilsy, just Pat. like I personally know him on a first name basis.
So he's also in a band. Did we mention that?
Oh my God, he's in a band with his brothers. Like currently.
All right, so like that's a last little tidbit for you. He's in a band with his brothers.
Yeah, I think they're called like the Wilson Band.
Not to get confused with Band of Brothers, the HBO show. That's not what it is.
Yeah, easily confusable. Right. Those two things.
All right, but, it's been great talking to you, Nick.
Yeah, dude. Take it easy. Go watch Aquaman and don't get ran down by any more homeless people.
Seriously. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
All right.
This is Hype with Nick and Sam.